welcome to Slash Forward. In this episode, we're going to zip ahead 8 years and see what Mike, Reggie, and the gang have been up to with the 1988 film Phantasm II. Let's get to it. We open on an unfamiliar character who wakes with a start. Her name is Liz, and she quickly scribbles down notes in her dream journal. We come to learn that she's been having visions about both Michael and the tall man for the last 8 years. Her visions drop us off at the end of the prior movie, Reggie rushing upstairs in response to Michael's cries, indicating those events actually happened. He tries to think of a way out of this situation, starting with his gun, but ending in the kitchen when he is both attacked and snapped at by a dwarf. Since one is about all he can handle, he quickly devises a plan to explode the rest real good, cranking the gas and running to save Michael. He ends up saving this small woman instead, but just in time either way, and the tall man is unfazed by this turn of events. Liz then sees the point where her visions converge with her current life path, and she calls out to Michael psychically, causing a little jingle in his ballsack. He's currently committed in a psychiatric hospital, and has resorted to saying whatever's necessary to get himself out. It works, and then he immediately demonstrates why this was a bad choice, as he sets to digging up graves to prove the tall man was real. Reggie somehow anticipates this and finds him at the graveyard. Michael attempts to convince Reggie of the importance of what he's doing by revealing he has already dug up several graves. But that's even worse. We come to find out that contrary to the opening sequence of the movie, the events surrounding the tall man didn't actually happen, or at least Reggie doesn't think so. Now he has to get back to his family and do other normal things. That's awkward. They're now on a concurrent quest to seek out and destroy the tall man. They start by gathering supplies after hours at the local hardware/gun/machine shop. They take a few moments to just really feel their creativity, you know? Just let their imaginations soar. They leave a wad of cash so it all evens out, and they begin their pursuit. The trail is not hard to pick up. The tall man's path is littered with small towns gutted and dead, full of empty cemeteries. They stop in each town to gear up and check the funeral home, like this one. Sometimes there are traps, and sometimes there's a calling card. Oh, it's nice to know he remembered. Their last stop before reaching the state line is Perigord, which we find out is Liz's hometown. It looks like the tall man's operation is in full swing here. Liz is at the funeral home with her grandmother for her grandfather's service. There's some disturbances that she is only mildly disturbed by. Mike can feel this, and it energizes him to keep moving. The local priest, enlisted or possibly compelled to assist the tall man, completes a pagan ritual he's not totally comfortable with, and years of celibacy have failed to condition him to lock the door, leading to an embarrassing discovery. In the back hallways, Liz is just about to check a coffin with her pin, but is interrupted by the tall man, who ends up slurping his own juices like a boss. Back with the fellas, Mike wakes up to find out they've picked up a hitchhiker. She introduces herself as Alchemy, which is such a real thing. They pull over to talk, and Mike waits for Reggie to pull out his schlong before telling him he's seen his prospective girlfriend dead in his dreams. Too lonely to let her go, they agree to keep a close eye on her instead. Back at Liz's house, she finds her granny has disappeared, but there's a calling card, and also a voiceover telling her to come to the funeral home. The gang arrives in Perigord, finding it not unlike the other towns. They go to the B&B run by Alchemy's family, but find it abandoned. Liz arrives at the funeral home, which works out because the boys are preparing to do their standard check of the local funeral home as well. The priest is also here, getting in everyone's business. Tall man doesn't like people touching his items, so he teaches him a lesson. Father Myers runs off to tattle on him to Liz, who then gets the full Phantasm experience, attacked by an orb that eviscerates someone in front of her, tossed around by the tall man, tugged at by dwarves. She manages to escape and, following standard rom-com tropes, meets the literal man of her dreams skulking around in an open grave. How cliche. They regroup at home where they all catch up and then bed down for the night. Mike and Liz talk in their dreams.
Wow, this is great.
Great? You're not even flying, dude. In Reggie's room, things are less dreamlike and are capped off with an explosion downstairs. A booby trap went off, taking out a neighborhood cat, causing Mike to have a tinge of regret about his lifestyle, although he quickly learns how foolish it is to feel feelings when it distracts him enough to allow Liz to be taken. They respond quickly and have little trouble chasing down the hearse in their Hemi-Cuda. Unfortunately, before they can get off a shot, Mike fails in his one obligation. Don't drive like a turd and keep the tires on the ground. They manage to get out and barely have a moment to shed a tear for the Hemi, before they redirect their rage into revenge. They sneak in the back of the funeral home and find a large door with a strange lock in the embalming room. Reggie spikes the embalming fluid with hydrochloric acid like a little trickster, and then they try to find an orb to unlock the door and gain access to whatever embarrassing secrets the tall man has in his private room. Meanwhile, Liz has been playing possum while they warm up the hotbox, and waits until the last possible moment to roll her ass out of the flames. Luckily, the henchman just wiggles her neck a little, so she castrates him with a shovel and then runs. She and Mike then have a confrontation with the henchman, but when the orbs come to join join in, everyone's in danger. The first orb sticks itself to the door and they all scatter when the Golden Daddy shows up. While this is happening, Reggie has his own altercation and very nearly sticks his tongue out to denote getting choked, but regains his composure and finds himself engaged in a chainsaw fight. Meanwhile, Liz and Mike are running from Goldie, which can break through doors. Luckily for them, it wears itself out, exploring this young man's insides, ending up embedded in his face. Reggie concludes his dilemma with a risky flying spready over a chainsaw, giving him the idea to bifurcate this poor man's loins. Then we finally get to watch him fire off the old quad barrel. They meet up and collect their prize, return to the door and thrust the ball deep, discovering another final room just like the last one. This time, however, the tall man shows up to protect what's his, and backhands Reggie into another dimension. As Mike and Reggie fight their way back into our world, Liz prepares for insertion. Tall man sprouts a baby arm that gently scratches Mike's face a little. Then they meltitate him, which seems to do the trick for now. Alchemy shows up in a hot-wired hearse, and they take off, relieved and relaxed. And they are laughing. But only momentarily. And that was Phantasm II, a solid follow-up, but without ever knowing whether he'll get another film financed, Don Coscarelli seems devoted to weird, ambiguous twist endings. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.